Hello and welcome. I hope that you are doing well. Thank you so much for joining me here today for our third book review of March. And I'm sitting in front of the graphic novel and manga section because all of the books that I chose today are graphic novels. So, I chose this book at the end of our last video using the bingo card as a guide for what I pick. After I was done with that video and editing it, I realized that it doesn't take that long to read graphic novels. So I added 2 more to my reading. So today we are talking about The Librarian of Auschwitz, the graphic novel adapted by Salva Rubio from the book by Antonio Iturbe. We're talking about Run and Hide, How Jewish Youth Escaped the Holocaust by Don Brown. And we are talking about A Wrinkle in Time, the graphic novel, with the illustrations and words by Hope Larson. So let's start with The Librarian of Auschwitz, the graphic novel. We do carry the original book, The Librarian of Auschwitz, in the library too. I haven't read this one yet, full disclosure. Part of the reason for that is it's often checked out. When I was trying to figure out what to say about this book, I realized I would need to be careful because I don't want to give away what happens in this particular story, but people in general know a lot about this period in history. So I'm going to be vague about some of it, just so I don't spoil anything. The Librarian of Auschwitz, the graphic novel, is inspired by the real-life experiences of Dita Kraus. It's a historical fiction graphic novel set in the time from about 1938 to 1945. Dita lived with her parents in Prague, Czechoslovakia, and she loves reading books. She has a normal childhood, but she begins to notice that the adults around her are quite anxious. Soon the day arrives when she learns what's causing their anxiety. On March 15th, 1939, the Nazis invade Czechoslovakia in violation of the Munich Agreement. Dita, her family, and all of the Jewish citizens are severely restricted. They have to wear a yellow star on their clothing when they go out in public. Many are fired from their jobs. Jewish people cannot shop at the same time that non-Jewish people shop at, and Jewish children can no longer attend schools. They can't even play in parks. Dita and her friends end up playing in the cemetery. Not long afterwards, Dita, her parents, and many of their friends are ordered to report to the train station, and from there they are taken to a ghetto. A little after that, they are loaded onto trains where they must stand closely packed in together, and they travel to Auschwitz. It's a long and uncomfortable trip. And upon arrival at Auschwitz, Dita and her family are placed into a special section of the camp, Camp B2B. And Camp B2B is different than the other sections of concentration camps. Its purpose is misinformation. People in this part of the camp are allowed to wear their own clothing, they didn't have to get their heads shaved, and they have generally better conditions than other areas and other camps. And the point of this section is that if human rights inspectors like the Red Cross would come in to see how prisoners are being treated, the Nazis could show that they were being treated humanely, and it did work for them. The Jewish leader of Camp B2B, Freddie Hirsch, welcomes those who are new to the camp. He also finds jobs for those who are able to work. And that way he can keep their spirits up, but they can also demonstrate to the Nazis that they're contributing something. As you can imagine, this is a heavy read. It's always difficult to read about humans and humanity to one another. If you are wondering about suggesting it to a teen that you know, I'd suggest you read it first. You know your teens better than anyone else, and so you would know if they would be troubled by what they read and see in this book. Topics to be aware of from this book would be anti-Semitism, depictions of the Holocaust, death, grief, starvation, descriptions of torture and sexual harassment. If you're interested in learning more about the history of the Holocaust, there is Run and Hide: How Jewish Youth Escaped the Holocaust, a graphic novel by Don Brown. It explores the stories of Jewish children who were separated from their parents so that they would be able to survive. Some were sent to England to live with families that they didn't know there. Some were hidden in attics, much like Anna Frank and her family hid in an attic room to try to evade the Nazis. Some were sent to live with other people who pretended that they were their relatives from different countries or different places. Some made unimaginable escapes by crossing mountain ranges. And I imagine their relief at being free and not subject to Nazi terrorism was tempered by the absence of their families. And for some, the welcomes that they received and the conditions they met in these other places weren't entirely wholesome. This book shows the causes of the rise of fascism in Germany and the man who caused it. Like our first book, the book deals with difficult topics. Survival is the main theme of this book, along with courage and kindness. But the atrocities committed by the Nazis are not ignored. This book presents history in a way that you will find in few places. And lastly, we have the graphic novel adaptation of a book that I really liked when I was a kid, and it is A Wrinkle in Time, the graphic novel by Hope Larson, and it's adapted from the novel by Madeleine L'Engle. And it's the story of Meg and her brother Charles Wallace. Their father is a physicist who is working for the government, and he has been away for a long period of time. And as people do, their neighbors begin to talk, and they believe that he has deserted the family. Meg is an intelligent teenager who is frustrated by school. She struggles to fit in partly because she isn't being challenged at school, and partly because no one there understands her. Charles Wallace is different from any other child. So much so that the kids at Meg's school make comments about him. But he understands some things that others do not. He can tell when Meg and their mom are upset, and he'll often awaken at night because he knows that they're going to wake up and go and make them hot cocoa so they have something to drink while they're awakened. Charles Wallace has befriended 3 neighbor women, and they will lead Charles Wallace, Meg, and a neighbor and new friend, Calvin, on a quest through time and space to rescue Meg and Charles Wallace's father and save the world. A Wrinkle in Time, the graphic novel, like the original book that it was based on, is a unique science fantasy book. It's a blend of science and mystical Christianity that I found quite interesting and still feel that it is a good read. It explores time travel based on science and explains the science behind it. It explores themes of love and the value of individuality. And there we are. I hope that you enjoyed this look at the Librarian of Auschwitz, Run and Hide: How Jewish Youth Escaped the Holocaust, and A Wrinkle in Time. And I hope if you're interested in any of those, you will give them a read. We're going to cross off the prompts on our bingo card and this time we're going to use purple. Book that is part of a series. So A Wrinkle in Time is part of a quintet. So we're going to cross off book that is part of a series. We're also going to cross off retelling for A Wrinkle in Time and for The Librarian of Auschwitz, because they're both graphic novel retellings of other books. Manga or graphic novel, we've got that. Longer book, so A Wrinkle in Time is 404 pages long, so that puts it over 375, so we have a longer book. A short book, and I believe both The Librarian of Auschwitz and Run and Hide are shorter books. So The Librarian of Auschwitz is about 125 pages, and Run and Hide is about 190 pages. Both of those are less than 245 pages, so we will cross off short book. Make something, be creative. We did a really cool video where I made a butterfly bookmark. It's the video before this one if you're interested in watching it. We're going to cross that off. And so we have just a few prompts left. Winter element on the cover. Ask someone to tell you about their favorite book. Read a book with someone else. Recommended book, and begin a book early in the morning. So I'm going to go try to find a book that has a winter element on the cover, and hopefully it was recommended to me, and I will be right back. And I found one. Back in December, one of our patrons recommended the book, The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. This is what we're going to read next. So I'm going to be back either later in the week or early next week with the review for The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. We'll see how far I get on the bingo card. And we'll be back later this week with an Explore and Create. So I hope that you will join me then. Until then, I hope that you enjoy all that you do and all that you read. And thank you.